In this video, we'll share some bizarre facts about Rolex and the history of this astonishing brand. Which name comes to your mind when someone asks you about brands that make watches? Undoubtedly, at least 70% of people will say the name Rolex. Have you ever wondered what's so different about this brand? Welcome, everyone. Before we dive in, Rolex is the go-to watch brand and the first name that most people think of when they think of luxury watches. It is known globally for producing high-quality timepieces. But every successful brand has some secrets, some facts that will make the brand so special. Stay till the end of the video to find out 10 bizarre and little-known facts about the history of Rolex. Rolex was founded in London, England in 1905. Most people associate Rolex with the glitter and glamour of the Swiss luxury watch industry. But few people know that Rolex was actually established in England. Yes, that's right. The Rolex Watch Company was established in London, England in 1905. However, Rolex wasn't the company's first name. Wilsdorf and Davis was actually the original name of the business, and W&D was a mark on the Rolex timepieces during that time. Are you amazed? Certainly, the majority of people believe that Rolex was founded in Geneva, Switzerland, while in fact, the company was founded in London. The firm relocated to Switzerland after World War I. This is due to the fact that it was an attractive tax shelter at the time, as compared to recovering Britain. Until December 31, 2004, the company Aigler SA was actually creating the watches for Rolex to sell. Rolex purchased the Aigler firm from the Bohrer family, who had decided to sell it. After Harry Bohrer sold Aigler SA to Mantra Rolex SA in 2004, the Rolex Watch Company officially acquired the plant that produced Rolex watches. Rolex SA to this day still owns that production site, which is known as Manufacturer de Mantra Rolex SA. Rolex started out as a company that only assembled watches. Did this ever occur to you that this premium brand at first did not actually manufacture watches? In the beginning, Rolex did not really manufacture watches. Rather, they just put them together. The business bought Swiss movements from Hermann Aigler and then installed those movements into cases produced by Denison and other manufacturers. Hermann Aigler was the supplier of the Swiss movements. After that, the timepieces were offered for sale to jewelers. Since 1985, Rolex started using 904L stainless steel. Since 1985, all Rolex timepieces have been manufactured with this special metal, while the majority of steel watches are made of 316L stainless steel. Rolex refers to its 904L alloy as a corrosion-resistant superalloy. This is important because corrosion is a huge issue with stainless steel watches. That is because the watch is linked to the wrist. Moisture and other corrosive elements, such as salt water, that can cause the stainless steel to tarnish and degrade. The 904L steel is more costly and more difficult to produce than the normal 316L steel. Other steels are stronger and more resistant to scratch and markings than 904 steel. However, for a professional watch, particularly the dive watches of Rolex, the casings must be waterproof. And corrosion might threaten this if the screws that connect the crown and the base back deteriorate. Rolex's use of its 904L corrosion-resistant superalloy steel is only one of many details that set the brand apart from its rivals. Rolex still uses III instead of IV on its Roman numeral dials. The number 4, III, is sometimes referred to as the clockmaker's 4. This has to do with aesthetics and maintaining a balanced, symmetrical pattern. You might be thinking, why the heck is symmetry so important, and why is Rolex so obsessed with symmetry? Well, symmetry easily captivates people's attention without them really noticing. Our brains are hardwired, for some strange reason, to find symmetry beautiful and attractive. Hey, it's just one of the weird things in the universe, I guess. All Rolex watches are photographed at the time 10 past 10. If you check all of the Rolex watches that were photographed, you will note that the time on each one is set to 10 minutes past 10, and the vintage one is at the 31-second mark. This time is referred to as the Rolex time, officially. And if the watch has a date function, the date will always be set to the 28th. And if it has a day function, such as in the day-date function, the day will always be adjusted to Monday. If the watch has both a date and day function, the date will always be set to Monday, the 28th. The explanation for this is rather straightforward. Sure, it ends up being a signature and an iconic quality of Rolex's watches, but the aesthetic appeal that it provides is by far the most important thing about it. The hands are always positioned such that they are pointing directly at the logo, which is always located at 12 o'clock on the face of the clock. This ensures that the logo is always symmetrically framed by the hands. There's that symmetry thing again. I guess it really matters to Rolex. Have you ever noticed this detail in any of their advertisements? So you see, Rolex never fails to focus on the tiny details. In 1945, Rolex made the first wristwatch able to automatically change the date. Do you have an analog watch that automatically adjusts the date? Have you ever wondered which brand invented this path-breaking technology? Yes, you are right. It's Rolex. The watch was a Rolex Datejust, which has since become an iconic model. Do you really love Rolex watches? Then this is the perfect time to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Before we continue with our fascinating facts, Rolex makes all of its gold in-house. Think about even producing their own gold in-house. It should be highly regarded when a brand produces its items by itself. But here too, Rolex just takes it one step further by even producing their gold in-house. It shows the passion that Rolex has for making excellent watches. As you can imagine, when Rolex even goes so far as to make its own gold in-house, it really demonstrates that Rolex is not like other watchmakers and that it never compromises on quality. This is why the watches are so expensive. Also, Rolex is in the unique position of being able to exercise complete control over the manufacturing process, as the company produces its own gold. This means that they are able to guarantee the material's quality in addition to the way it appears. Rolex is the only watch business that produces its own gold and has a true in-house foundry. This really sets it apart from its competitors. Rolex's headquarters has higher security than a high-level security prison. Of course, there are a number of factors at play here, but one of them is that the Rolex headquarters is in possession of Ever-Rose gold bars with a value of $1 million. For the purpose of transporting Rolex components from one site to another, the headquarters includes fingerprint scanners for employees, bank vault doors, iris scanners, and inconspicuous armored vehicles. We can't share all their secret security measures here, but you see, there is no denying the desirability of Rolex timepieces. Can you name any brand that takes so many precautions? If you've heard bizarre stories regarding the security measures of any brand, comment down below. Rolex is a charity. Many brands now like to be associated with some kind of charitable event. Such activities are a thing now. But you'll be surprised to know that Rolex is actually a charitable foundation itself. After the passing of his wife in 1944, Hans Wilsdorf established his namesake foundation. The Hans Wilsdorf Foundation was established in 1944. The foundation has taken ownership of Rolex at this point, and it has also established very specific standards for how the organization's funds should be managed. The Rolex Foundation does not make its charitable contributions public, since the legislation in Switzerland exempts private charities from the obligation to provide information regarding their operations. As a consequence of this, there haven't been any, and there hasn't been any information revealed on whether or not anyone has received a charitable contribution from the Hans Wilsdorf Foundation. Rolex has been to the top and the bottom of the world without missing a second. Did you know that Sir Edmund Hillary's 1953 Everest crew wore Rolex? Rolex ran perfectly in these high-altitude conditions. 7 years later, in 1960, the U.S. Navy's bathyscaphe Trieste proceeded to the Mariana Trench on the bottom of the ocean. Rolex joined the bathyscaphe Trieste on this historic trip, and the watch ticked without missing a second at 14,000 pressures. Rolex's quality and durability are evident both at great highs and great lows. Hey, how is that symbolic for life? Wouldn't you want a companion that you can always rely on, both at your greatest highs and your deepest lows? Well, that's all for today's video. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, Watch Divine, and hit that notification bell to know more interesting facts about Rolex. Let us know in the comments section which fact surprised you the most. Thanks for watching. Please give a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video. And stay tuned for the next one.